3 Things You Can Do to Be Happier. Written by Kevin Edwards. Narrated by Tom Force. This book is dedicated to all who desire to be happier than they presently are. Introduction. Could you stand to be just a little bit happier? I am sure we all could, but it may not come to us as easily when we seek it out directly. In fact, it may elude us altogether. For years I studied philosophy and theology and have been somewhat of a counselor and spiritual teacher, practicing meditation, prayer, and good works. Throughout this time I have been in and out of spiritual traditions and religions, and have found, not that they are all the same, but that human beings are practically benefited by 3 very simple practices. I have also found that these practices are best when they are kept simple, like the words in the following pages. Chapter 1. Meditation. In its simplest form, meditation does not belong to any religion or any region, but to the human experience. Meditation, in its simplest form, is paying attention. It is not focusing on the breath or the body or on mantras which require a certain amount of effort. It does not require correct posture or proper breathing, nor does it involve, in any effortful way, the quieting of the mind. It is less about technique and more about being present to what is happening. Meditation is paying attention. It is tuning in and paying attention for its own sake. By tuning in, I don't mean to imply turning inward. Meditation requires no turning in any direction, neither inward nor outward. It is simply paying attention for its own sake, and needn't be more complicated than this. In the act of paying attention, whether it be to a thought, a flower, or something else, a silence naturally emerges. That emerging silence, which emerges effortlessly in the act of paying attention, is the key to it all. The more we become aware of this, the more meditative each moment becomes. Instant stillness. Give all your attention to simply paying attention for its own sake. Give your whole being to paying attention. Instantly there is quiet. Even amidst the busyness, quiet is there. It emerges, as if out of nowhere, in the act of paying attention. Instant stillness. Chapter 2. Prayer. Prayer, in its simplest form, is acknowledging God. It doesn't have to go beyond this to be prayer. It doesn't have to be formulaic, and it doesn't have to be conversational. It may change our immediate circumstances, or it may not. But always, it is beneficial. It is beneficial because it takes our attention off ourself and places it on God. It relieves us of the burden of self, and in that moment, transfers that burden to God. As the duration of our prayer time grows, time, without burdens, also grows. And if we seek to eventually change our circumstances through divine assistance, prayer is the best means. All of this can happen in silence. Since prayer is telepathic, we need not even speak. All that is required is that we acknowledge God, for whom nothing is impossible. And if we seek to change our current circumstances, ask, and we shall receive. Loving acknowledgement. For a moment, turn away from everything temporal, everything worldly, everything material, and acknowledge God. God who knows your every thought before you think it, and your every word before you speak it. God who knows you intimately and from whom nothing is hidden. Now acknowledge this awesome supernatural being in a loving manner, and let things take their course. Chapter 3. Service. Another word for service is love, or putting love into action. When it comes to having a good relationship between ourselves and others, ourselves and the world, love. Service pretty much sums it up. As much as we care for ourselves, we should try to care for others and for our world. Service has at least two benefits. First, we benefit the persons or creatures we serve. And second, we ourselves are benefited. By giving, we receive. It is directly proportional. The more we serve, the more our capacity for generosity increases. The greater our capacity for generosity, the greater our capacity for happiness instead of self-centeredness. Through service, our heart gets bigger and our self-preoccupations get smaller. The two happen in direct proportion to one another. The more we give, the happier we become. The more we center on others, the less we center on ourselves. To attend to our own wants and needs is natural, even prudent. But to be excessively centered on ourself is a recipe for misery. Putting love into action, service, on the other hand, is a recipe for happiness, for meaningfulness, and fulfillment. In the process, we are benefited. Others are benefited, and having been loved by us, are better equipped to love and serve others. Love in action. Think about how you can put love into action. Get in the habit of helping people, serving people, of making their lives better. Feed the hungry. Give drink to the thirsty. Clothe the naked. Shelter the homeless. Visit the prisoner. Comfort the sick. Bury the dead. Think also how you might meet others' spiritual needs as well. Teach the ignorant. Counsel the doubtful. Console the sorrowful. Bear wrongs patiently. Forgive wrongs willingly. Correct sinners, and pray for the living and the dead. Happiness as rest. Why are we not happy? Why are we not at rest? I consider this a very important question. At first glance, we might say that the problem is circumstantial. But I have found that it isn't. It is a matter of grounding our thinking mind so that it doesn't take off and cause catastrophe after catastrophe, disruption after disruption. This may sound mysterious, but it isn't. It is simply allowing the thinking mind to return home and find rest. You will know when it has. All that will be left will be an embrace, not a physical embrace, but an embrace of life. The thinking mind. The thinking mind, or thinker, is the part of the mind that is unsurrendered and restless, the part that is willful and dissatisfied, the part that sets itself up as judge and juror, as victim and victor. So you see why having this part return home and rest results in a more relaxed, clear, and satisfied state. Happiness. So long as the thinker is not resting, thought-free consciousness remains inaccessible and undiscovered. Traditionally, this has been achieved either through meditation or contemplative prayer. The two ways. Contemplative prayer, simply put, is surrendering one's mind to God that it may be quieted. Meditation is attending to silence. In other words, in meditation, we attend to the very silence that reveals itself as a result of our paying attention. There are similarities and there are dissimilarities. However, both succeed at providing rest for the restless mind. Many things dispose one to receive the gift of contemplation or the goal of meditation. A lack of distraction, clean living, careful not to excessively agitate the mind through chemicals or diet, a genuinely truthful and honest life. But the main ingredient is attention. Training one's attention to go to God, or to go to the spiritual mind, as opposed to the thinking mind, is the main discipline involved. Happiness or unhappiness, peace or disturbance, therefore, is really a question of surrendered or unsurrendered, of disciplined or undisciplined attention. A new authority. I don't believe we have an epidemic of depression and anxiety as much as gullibility. People today believe that they are their thoughts, that their thoughts are significant, and somehow tell them about themselves. Psychology has hoodwinked people, how we feel, what we think. These do not define a person. What defines a person are actions. Thoughts and feelings change from day to day. We ought not to pay too much heed to them. They aren't real. They prove that over and over again. Sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down. Sometimes we're blessed and sometimes we're cursed. Sometimes we are victorious and sometimes we are defeated or under siege. The only constant, the only thing that matters, is our intention, our will. It's what we do that matters. What we do defines who we are, not what we feel, nor what we think. All the great sages have told us this from the beginning. Observe the mind. Smile at it. Observe your feelings. Smile at them. I think we've listened long enough to fools. We should listen instead to the sages. Free ourselves from the tyranny of our mind. The mind is not any kind of authority. It is not any kind of expert on who we are. Break the relationship you have with your mind. You are in a relationship where you are bound to be lied to, cheated on, misled, duped, abused, and hurt. It's time to break it off. Time to end the unhealthy love affair. Friend, please accept this invitation to throw off the dictatorship of mind and live by a new authority. What if? Then you'll ask, what will this new authority be? What will it be like? Ponder this. What if the new authority was the absence of the old authority? What if the new freedom was nothing more than the absence of the old tyranny? What if being okay was as simple as throwing off the shackles of everything you allowed to define you? And rather than living within the limits and confines of your mind and emotions, you find yourself resting in the openness and spaciousness of your spirit. What if rest was now available? What if lightness was indeed possible? And what if it was natural to you, more natural and more immediate than thoughts and feelings, more believable and more intimate than the changing landscape you now believe? This is an invitation to ask yourself the question, what if? We are so identified with our thoughts and feelings. What if there was another way to live? What if there was an alternative? What if there was a way out? And what if it cost you only this tumultuous relationship? Would you be willing to try a trial separation? Willing to seek out a divorce? Aren't you tired of it all? Isn't it time you sampled some aloneness, some freedom, quiet, rest? Isn't it time you stepped out on deceptive and unsupportive influences and tried something new? Afterward. Do these 3 things, and life will be beautiful. 1. Discover the meditative mind in the silence that emerges through paying attention. 2. Acknowledge God, for whom nothing is impossible, who is ready to take your burdens. 3. Put love into action and equip others to serve in a world that is so much in need. And rest. Should you find yourself in distress, return to this simple list, or listen again to this simple book. It may take a few reads, but I guarantee the answer is here, along with the key to a happy, more peaceful life. This book is for all who desire to be happier than they presently are.